Good job, Jordan.
I was looking 22, it was too far in. Okay, 22, 10. Amar lahun haman da'alim.
No, you got to do before that because they.
Start at 1, actually.
Let's just start at 1. Start at 1. Look,
Okay.
like the Feast of Unleavened Bread.
Are you ready, guys?
Yes.
We are in Mount Zion now. The Feast of the Unleavened Bread, Passover. Jesus is here with his disciples. Kariv hu da'in adna de pitra de machka pascha.
And the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is called the Pascha. Again, that's Aramaic. It's Pesach in Hebrew.
Pesach means Passover.
Okay.
God passed over the house of the Israelites when they put the blood on the doors. That's what this means, Passover. Pesach in Hebrew means Passover.
Okay.
Unleavened is, we'll talk about what unleavened means later.
Okay.
Okay? Uve'in ha'oraba kahana v'safra de'ichta dechalin havgira ama.
And the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how they might kill him, for they were afraid of the people.
Al hava din satna b'Yehuda demachka zchuta ava min benina de'atras.
And Satan had entered Yehuda, who was called Scariota, who was from the number of the 12.
ואז אלמל רבי כהנא וספרא ורבי חילה דהיחילה איך דנשמוהו להון.
And he went and spoke with the chief priests and the scribes and the chief guards of the temple about how he might deliver him.
וחדיו והקימו דנטלון דכספא.
And they rejoiced and pledged to give their money to him.
ואשתודי להון ובאה הפלאה דנשומי להון בלה מן קנשה.
And he promised them and was seeking an opportunity to deliver him to them away from the crowds.
ומתי יומא דפטירה דבאית הבי עדה דן לזה פסחא.
And the day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread arrived, during which there was the custom that the Pesach be slaughtered.
ושדר ישוע לקייפא וליוחנן ואמר להון זה לא וטיב להם פסחא דנלס.
And Yeshua sent Kepha and Yochanan and said to them, "Go, prepare the Pesach for us that we may eat."
הנון דין אמרו לה איכה צבא אן דמתיב.
And they said to him, "Where do you want us to prepare it?"
This is where it gets interesting, the reference of where we are. אמר להון, המין דעלין אנטון למדינתה, פגע בחובון גברא דשקיל גרבא דמאיה זל בתרא.
He said to them, "Behold, when you enter into the city, you will meet up with a man who is bearing a skin of water. Go after him and where he enters."
The water carriers are the poorest of the poor. He's a water carrier. This was the poor neighborhood. Not where the priests was. So this was the poor neighborhood area. Follow the water carrier. וההו מחווה לחובן עליתה חדה רבתא דמשיחא תמן טיבו.
And behold, he will show you a certain large upper room that is furnished. Prepare there.
ואז לו אשכחו עיר דמר להון וטיבו פצחה.
And they went and found it as he said to them, and they prepared the Pesach. Okay, I want to stop right here. Why is a Galilean here in Yerushalayim?
There's a huge festival, right? It's like a party.
Because he's obedient to the
He's a Jew.
Because he keeps the Torah.
Torah.
Yeah.
Because he keeps the Torah. Him and the disciples walked from Galilee, where we drove from today. Wow.
They probably flew though, right?
And they didn't fly.
No, they took a helicopter.
They took a helicopter, right? So we were in Galilee this morning. Do you see how this is, you guys? We came from Galilee this morning. Okay?
It's about a week. Good, nice week walk.
Okay? So they walked from Galilee to here. Why? Because he keeps the Torah. Because it was the Torah to present yourselves 3 times a year right here at the temple.
Oh, wow.
And to bring your sacrifice. Okay, you remember a couple of days ago, we saw that film, right? In that underground place, we saw that film. Remember the pilgrim that's making his way here? He has to get his lamb and he has to go to the mikvah. So what happened already? He already mikvahed. What did you guys do a couple days ago? Where did we just come from?
Galilee.
Amen.
Where are you up now? In the
Mount
poor
Zion?
neighborhood area on Mount Zion. Just around the corner, literally 100 feet of where we're going to have our Passover meal. Now it's closed, is the upper room. Again, the upper room is a traditional place where the events happen.
Wow.
It's a crusader room now. It's built over the traditional tomb of King David, which is not the place also because David was buried in the city, but that's a later on tradition. And that is the same upper room where in Acts and the Pentecost,
50 days later.
they speak in tongues.
50 days after Pesach.
What?
Is that the exact place or somewhere?
Yes.
No, it's 100 feet from where we are,
Yes.
on Mount Zion.
So listen. So we'll go through that one as well. But listen. So because he kept his father's traditions, because he honored his father, he did not come here to dishonor his father. He honored his father. He walked in his father's ways. He was the living word walking here. We literally have just walked through the same footsteps. You came from Galilee, and now we are here on Mount Zion to present ourselves before the temple is right over here. Here's the Passover, right? 50 days from now is Shavuot, which is the day that we received the Torah on Mount Zion.
Oh, wow.
So that was the second pilgrimage of the year. 50 days after this one, we do this all over again. We do this all over again. And where were his disciples? In Galilee. And he told them, stay here for Shavuot. Stay here. Huh?
How do you say that in Spanish?
Shavuot?
Shavuot means Pentecost. Pentecost, like Pentagon, 50, 50th.
Again, you're here to get beneath the surface and go deeper with your Father. How many of you dove deeper in your Bibles since you got here? And how many of the challenging that the challenging that I put at you has caused you to go, wait a second.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand? It's caused you to go, but wait, where is that? Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. That's what you should be doing. That's what we all should be doing. Now listen to me.
So wait, so what
So
day
what
day was
did
it?
it happen? What day was it?
So I want to challenge you even more.
Let's go there.
You know, a Jew answers the question with,
With
a
another question.
No, but really, Catholics believe it was the Good
Friday.
Catholics do not eat meat on Friday, therefore, right?
I don't know. I'm not Catholic.
No, I know about one Jew that converted to Catholicism, and he knew the condition is not to eat meat on Friday. So the priest didn't believe he was really going to convert, so he came Friday night to look through his window. And you see the Jew sitting and having a nice loaf of meat. He knocks on the door, he says, "What are you doing? You're eating meat?" He says, "This is not meat." "What do you mean? I see it's meat." He says, "This is fish." He says, "No, this is meat." He says, "Look, I went to the market, I bought a loaf of meat, I took some water, I sprinkled, I said, you're no longer fish, you're meat. You're no longer meat, you're fish." So, but now seriously.
What day was it? Okay,
Now
so it's the first day
seriously.
of unleavened bread. It is the Passover.
What do we know is for sure is this.
Yes.
The
And there
night-
was a Shabbat in it also.
So it's very, very tricky.
Yep, it
it's
is
very,
very
tricky.
tricky.
I'll tell you why. I've been learning this, going back and forth about what was the day.
Me too, for 8
Deep
years.
discussions with Robert and
8
others.
years.
Why is that so tricky? I'll tell you why. It's hard to believe it was a Friday. But that being said,
It
they
wasn't
took
3 days.
one, it wasn't 3 days, but that's another issue. First of all, let's start with what we know. We know it was a Passover.
Yep.
Yudalet of Nisan, 14th of Nisan, that's exactly what we're about to do in a few minutes.
Yep.
To relive that moment of a Passover meal on 14th of the month of Nisan.
Yep.
That was the Last Supper, the unleavened bread.
Yep.
No one doubts about that. The question, what day of the week, is a very tricky question for several reasons. The first reason is, if that was the Last Supper, and that
Quit
was
calling
Thursday,
it that, because
okay,
that's not what we call it. Not what we
it
call
was
it.
his Last Supper, but if we talk about the unleavened bread, the Passover meal that he had with the disciples, if it was a Thursday night, because the following day was Friday, it's problematic. You know why? Because the day after the Passover meal, it's a holiday.
It's a Shabbat.
It's like a
rest.
Shabbat.
Not like, it says it is.
So
It's a rest.
if it was for the Romans to crucify on the holiday, not likely. Also, we know that the Romans, one of the ideas that they took off, Jesus did not spend 3 days on the cross. Usually, in the crucifixion method, and thousands of people were crucified by the Romans, they left the corpse 3 days on the cross. One, to humiliate the person. Two, for deterrence, to show, look, there was a hill, Golgotha, people saw the crucified people. But because it was the eve of the Sabbath, and now we know, they speeded up his death. Legion stabbed him, he was already dead, but he stabbed him.
Broke the knees.
Broke his knees, broke his legs, and they brought the body down, and they buried him. Right?
They broke the legs of the other guys. but it was-
Okay, so that's another discussion. But he was stabbed.
Yes. Pierced for our transgression.
Now, the body was taken down out of respect for the Shabbat. But could they crucify on a holiday? So was it Thursday night? So there's no definite answer here.
But doesn't
And-
Shabbat start at sundown?
Yeah, but it's a holiday day.
But
If it's Passover Thursday, the following day, Friday, is a holiday,
It's true.
like a Shabbat.
Because Passover starts Thursday at sundown.
If it starts Thursday at sundown, the following, let's say when we have Thursday night Passover, we have Friday, which
And
is Shabbat, and Saturday. We have 2 days of Shabbat.
2 days of Shabbat.
Okay? So that's about that. Secondly, if Sunday morning Mary Magdalene comes to the tomb, how many days did he spend inside the tomb? From Friday afternoon till Sunday, it's not 3 days,
It's a day and a half.
right?
It's a day and a half.
So think of these things. We don't know what it's still in discussion what day was the actual day.
Wednesday.
So if it was Wednesday, why did they take the body before the Sabbath?
Which Sabbath was it though? Is the question. Because it mentions two.
Yeah, but
It mentions the
couldn't
Sabbath
be,
of the holiday, and it mentions the real Sabbath of the week.
but it couldn't be the Sabbath of the holiday because. Hi, Ali. Alec is our host. We're giving them the preparation to where they are to do the Passover meal and having some deep discussions. And we're coming in a second and going up on your roof. Arik knows me since my bar mitzvah.
Hi.
So guys, let's continue the discussion on the roof so we can get a nice panorama of where we are.
Amen.
This is deep. So, this is where we are. Get the context. We are outside the wall of the city, but these are Ottoman walls that were not here in the days of Jesus.
Is that the Golden Dome?
This is the white dome of the Chuvah. The golden dome, you can see this is the gray dome of the Al-Aqsa Mosque.
it.
And the golden dome is down there, it's not hard to see. But that's the Al-Aqsa Mosque. This is
The
the white
temple's
dome of the
this way.
Chuvah. Yeah, that's the Jewish quarter up there. That's the Temple Mount right down there. That's the corner, the illuminated
Yes.
corner where it states to tempt Jesus, if you're a son of God, jump, and the angels will save you. And Jesus tells him, he's told not to test your God. And like Ike was saying, this is crazy. I mean, just being here, literally 50, 60 feet from, and again, even the upper room, we don't know if that's a physical space. I always say it's within 200 feet of where we're standing, because the upper room itself was built by the Crusaders over 1,000 years after the events. So that's not the actual ground where the Passover meal took place. But it was definitely here on Mount Zion in the poor neighborhood area. And from here, right after, that's what we're going to do after our meal, walking down the valley. This is a good perspective because we're up in the air. Walking down the valley along the ancient walls, not these walls, but along the ancient walls. The walls of Temple Mount did exist in Jesus' days. So walking along the walls, down in the valley, nearby the tombs that predate Jesus.
Absalom's.
Where's Mount Absalom's tomb?
Yeah,
Right?
Absalom.
Where is Mount of Olives? Anybody point that out?
I gotta get myself.
So guys, follow me, take a look. You see this wall?
Yeah.
Walking along this wall, that's Temple Mount, that's the corner of Temple Mount. Over there, that's Mount of Olives.
Well, I can't see
Yeah. See this? Follow through. Temple, you see the Otzimah? It's go like this. See it up here? That's not of ours. So down there, that's where Jesus went. He walked the walk down there, and eventually down to Mount Olives. And that's where we're going.
Okay, so wait, I want to tie the knot here. So the biblical calendar, not Judaism, the biblical calendar, because there's a difference. The biblical calendar, not in the calendar per se, our day starts at night. As soon as the sun goes down, that's the beginning of a new day. Okay, so then so today is Adar 12. Nisan 14 is when Passover is going to be taken. So we're almost exactly a month away. Again, let me tie the knot. How do we know that Jesus was not born December 25th? He wasn't born on a Gregorian calendar.
No.
He was born on the Hebrew calendar.
Yeah.
Number one. So that's how we know that he was not born December 25th.
Duh.
Okay, my birthday on the Hebrew calendar, your birthday changes every year on the Hebrew calendar. Okay, my birthday's always the day before Purim. Purim never changes. It's Adar 13 and Adar 14. It's the same all the time, just like Passover is always Nisan 14. Do you understand? So that's the first thing. We know that he was not born December 25th because he was not born on a Gregorian calendar, period. Okay? Second, that there's two theories of the time he was born. And obviously God kept us from it. He didn't want us to know. He did not want us to know. So there's a couple theories. One, it's during Sukkot, which again, that he tabernacled with us is one. And that whole time during Sukkot or Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, right? The Day of Atonement could have been the day that he was born. What we do know is that the shepherds were out with the lambs and the lambs don't lamb in December.
That's
Right.
true.
Okay, so the shepherds were out, they were not in the snow with their lambs. Okay, so one theory is it's this time, Nisan 1. Nisan 1 is one theory. Jonathan Kahn, that's his theory, that he was born Nisan 1 as what? Because that's when we would take in, right now, we would have been taking in the Passover lamb into our homes and live with it for 14 days before we slaughtered it.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So that lamb would live with us for 14 days. So born on 1 and then killed on Passover. So that's one theory. The other theory is he was born around the Day of Atonement, if not on the Day of Atonement, and or he came out and tabernacled around us. Sukkot is right after Yom Kippur. Okay, so there you go. He was not born December 25th. Now you know why. Yes. And it doesn't matter.
Sorry.
It doesn't matter. Does it matter that he was born on December 25th? No. There's so many things that just don't matter.
As far as the Torah said that it's the first day of the year is like in the springtime.
There's
so why is
two
it-
first days of the year.
Okay.
Great question. Yes. It's the first day of a certain, what is it again? Barley?
Oh,
There's two different harvest times in the Hebrew calendar, right? So this is the, can you explain that? It'd be super
What?
important. Okay, so there's two New Years, meaning that
Rosh
they're floating
Hashanah.
around out there. Rosh Hashanah, right, to Yom Kippur is the Jewish New Year, and then now.
So again, what was the?
The original
I was not focused.
now.
So.
I know, you were focused on closing a multi-million-dollar deal. Anyway.
No, focus on getting the lamb for the meal.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, sure. Anyway, that's what we were talking about. So, the Jewish New Year.
Yes.
Okay, so
Rosh
there
Hashanah.
is Rosh Hashanah.
But there's also the Jewish New Year of Nisan 1. There's Nisan 1 as a New Year, and there's Elul 1. So there's two types of Rosh Hashanah. In two first years, one of them is trumpets. When the world was created 5 days before that, on Elul 25, and the day of Rosh Hashanah is the day of the creation of man, Friday. And then there is Nisan 1, which is Rosh Hashanah for our tradition, Nisan 1. And we also have another, just to confuse it a little more, another Rosh Hashanah for the trees, which is Shvat, Tu B'Shvat. So the counting for the 3 years before we cut the tree.
that wasn't confusing at all.
I know. but going back to what we said on the bus
It's
before,
all agricultural.
exactly.
That's what it
And
is.
by
It's
the
all
way,
agricultural.
because it's agricultural, we have to have a leap year. If we went just by the sun calendar, that means that Pesach would not be in the spring every year. The Ramadan travels around the year. It could be in the winter, it could be in the summer. It shifts around the year because a lunar year is 11 days shorter than a sun year. 354 days. Okay? Therefore, every 3 years we add a leap year, which is another Adar Bet. And every 19 years only it's sort of the same date, Georgian and Hebrew date align. Okay? So this is the reason. And like I said, we have the combined calendar of both the sun and the moon. Muslims use only the moon, Christians use only the sun. We have the best of both because we combine it all together. And even the Gregorian calendar, Danny was talking about it, was changed in the days of Jesus just before. For example, October. What month is October? What number is the month of October? 10. But what is it? Octagonal is 8, right? What about November?
11.
And it's 9, right? Nev. Diaz, 10, December. There's inconsistency of 2 months. Because in the Roman time, the Romans added Julius and Augustus, July and August.
Oh my gosh.
So,
And what gods did they serve?
Pagan god.
And one was the sun god. To worship the sun.
guys, let's go by the Jewish method, okay? They tried to kill us, they failed, let's eat. That's the essence of our holidays. Okay, guys, so like I mentioned, this church had several reincarnations. Last one was built in 1980, a French Catholic church with some beautiful designs. This whole church is dedicated to Peter denying Jesus, called St. Peter in Gallicanto. Peter is Caiaphas, but don't mistake him with Caiaphas the high priest, okay? There's two Caiaphas, Peter, Shimon, Caiaphas, and Caiaphas the high priest. Gallicanto, what does Gallicanto mean in Latin? The cry of the rooster. Danny was reading yesterday that Jesus tells his beloved disciple Caiaphas, Peter, you will deny me 3 times before the rooster calls, before the cock crows. So when that happens, and after he's arrested, now putting it back on the events of what we discussed yesterday, we were at the Last Supper where Jesus speaks with his disciples. We were in the garden. We're doing it incredibly chronologically, which is so cool, so I just have to tie it back in. We were in the garden where he was arrested by Judith. And after he was arrested by Judith, turning him over by the Roman soldiers, the Romans did not take him to Pilate. He handed him over to the religious authority, was Caiaphas, the high priest. This is the area believed to be Caiaphas' house. People were asking me about the authenticity of these ruins. These remains are original. As we walk down, you see the archaeological remains of a house from the days of the 1st century, Second Temple time period. And again, the church has different layers. The church is the church. We're not going to even enter the main part of the church. But you're going to walk through the doors and go around and go straight to the dungeons, to the crypt, as the church is built on top of the prison. Imagine a sheriff, right? A small little American town. The sheriff in his office also has a small prison, right? Yeah. If you ever saw the last episode of Seinfeld and with the Good Samaritan law, they're being thrown to prison, a small sheriff, local prison. Same thing here. So under the house of Caiaphas, there was the dungeons to keep political prisoners, religious prisoners, and that's where Jesus was brought in and spent the last night before he was finally in the morning turned over to Pontius Pilate. That's going to be our next stop, going to the place of the trial, reading about the trial, and walking through some of the different stations all the way to the crucifixion hill, Golgotha. So let's read from Matthew 26, verse 57. Ready?
Yes.
We're starting to read again with Aramaic and then translating into English. והנון דאחדי לישוע אבולו את קייפה רב כהנא איכא דספא וקשישא כנישין אבו.
And those who seized Yeshua led him to the high priest Caiaphas, where the scribes and the elders were gathered.
שמעון דין קפה אזל הווה בתרא מן רוחקא אדמה לדרתא דרב כהנא ואל יטיב לגו דחשה דנח זכרת.
Shimon, who was called Kepha, was following after him from a distance up to the court of the high priest, and he entered and sat inside among the guards that he might see the end.
רבי כהנא, דין וקשישה וכינוס תקולה בעין הבו, על ישוע סהדתה אין דינמתו.
Now the chief priests and the elders and the whole assembly were seeking witnesses against Yeshua so that they might kill him.
ולא אשכחו ואתו סגיתא דהדו דשקתו אחרי דין קרבו טרין.
And they did not find them, but many false witnesses came. But at the end, 2 came forward.
ואמרין הנה אמר דמשכח אנא דשרה, היכלה דאלוה ולתלת היומין אבנהו.
And said, this man said that, I am able to tear down the temple of Elohim and in 3 days rebuild it.
וקם רב כהנא ואמר לה, לא, מידה מפנה את חפת גמר מנן סנהדרין עלי חלין.
And arose the high priest and said to him, do you not answer to this matter? What it is that these witnesses have against you?
ישוע דין שתיק, הבו ואנה רב כהנא ואמר לו, מומה אנה לך, באלוה חיה דתמר לן, אין אנותה משיחה ברד דאלוה.
But Yeshua was silent, and the high priest said to him, I adjure you by the living Elohim that you tell us if you are the Mashiach, the son of Elohim.
אמר לו ישוע, אנט אמרת לכון דין דומן השע דחוזי לבורה, דאנשא דהייתי מן ימינה, תחילה ואיתה על עניי שמיים.
Yeshua said to him, you have said it, but I say to you that from now on you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the power and coming upon the clouds of heaven.
הידין רב כהנא צר עמנו ואמר הגדף מנה, מכיל מתעבין לן סהר ההשע, שמעתן גודופה.
Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, behold, he blasphemes. Why therefore do we need witnesses? Behold, now you have heard his blasphemy.
מנה צביין אנטון אנו ואמרין חיב חומתו.
What do you want to do? They answered and said, he is deserving of death.
הידין רקו באפי ומקרין הבו לו, אחרת דין מכין הבו לה.
Then they spat upon his face, and they were striking him on the head, and others were beating him. Can you see it? It's right here.
ואמרין התנה בלן משיחה מנו הוא דנחמך.
And they were saying to him, prophesy to us, Mashiach, who is the one who beat you?
וחד נופק לסיפה חזיתה אחרת ואמרת להון, לתמן הב הנה עם ישוע נצריה.
And Kepha was sitting in the courtyard outside, and a certain maiden drew near to him and said, you are also with Yeshua the Natsara.
וטוב כפור במונתא דלה ידע אנה לי לגברא.
But he denied it before all of them and said, I do not know what you're saying.
You're with him from Galilee. I do not know this man. מן בתר כליל דין קרבו הנו דקומין ואמר לכפה, שררית אף אנט אנמהון, אף ממר חגיר מודלך.
And when he went out to the porch, another maid saw him and said to them that were there, this man was also with Yeshua the Natsra.
היידין שרי למחום ולמר, דלה ידנתא לגברא בה בשעת קרא תרנגולה.
And again he denied it with oaths, I do not know the man.
והתחו הקל פמילתא דישוע דאמר לה דקדם דנקרא תרנגולה תלת זבנין, דכפור ביבינה פק לבר מחה מרירת.
And after a little while, those who were standing by said to Kepha, surely you are also with them, for your speech makes you known.
היידין שרי למחמו ולמאמה, לה גברא בשעת קרא תרנגולה.
Then he began to curse and to say, I do not know the man, and in that hour the cock crowed.
ותדרוך כפה מלתא דישוע דאמר לה, דקדם דנקרא תרנגולה תלת זבין, בי ונפק לה ברבוחה מרירותה.
And Kepha remembered the word which Yeshua said to him that, before the cock crows 3 times, you will deny me. And he went outside and he wept bitterly.
Everything happened in the perimeter of where we are. Again, ignore the Catholic Church. Think of where it's built. It's built to commemorate the event. We're going to go down the dungeons, but around the dungeons, Peter is not with Jesus. He was with him in the garden. but he is close enough just to watch, what's happening with his master. He's afraid, but he wants to see what's going on. He's torn. He does not want to associate himself with Jesus because he's afraid for his neck. And 3 times the people ask him, do you know this man? I do not know this man. So what you can also learn from this about the timing of the day, right? Think of it. We were yesterday. Think of the hours of that night. The Passover starts somewhere around 7, 8 in the evening. Takes place at least 3-4 hours at least. Going through the ritual, talking about the stories of the Exodus, all the signs, having a nice lamb, drinking the wine. Finishing that was a smaller, intimate Passover, only Jesus and the disciples. Up in Mount Zion, which is right up the mountain over here. When they're done with that, I'm only guessing, but you can think together, maybe 12, 1 a.m., right? They're walking down. They walked and we walked.
Yeah, about the same time.
Topography was the same, about the same time.
Yeah.
Walking down at night, walking down the Kidron Valley, which is down there, alongside the temple, on the other side, and then coming. You see now the golden domes over there. That's the Mary Magdalene Church and Mount of Olives. Left of it is where the garden we stood. That's the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus came. When we were standing around midnight in the Garden of Olives. So probably maybe they're there for an hour, 2 hours. Judas comes with the Roman soldiers to that garden over there, marks them by kissing him, kiss of betrayed. Romans arrest him, and the Romans bring him up in the middle of the night. They're not going to go and wake up the governor, Pilate. They come to the house of Caiaphas, which is over here. Caiaphas, here's the man. Take care of him tonight. And he puts him in the dungeons, in the prison. So maybe around 3 in the morning, think of the hours. And by the morning, when the light starts and the cock crows, Peter realizes he denied him 3 times. Now it's morning. Caiaphas
That's a long night.
handing him over
So tired.
to Pontius Pilate. And the next night after this will be walking through some of the stations, going to the place of the trial. And then from there, heading all the way to the garden, believed to be the area where the crucifixion took place. So think of these events, and again, the context of this place, try to strip the buildings and the modern, additions, and just go down to the dungeons. You can go down there, pray, and read from Psalms and from Lamentations.
What we don't know is how long he was in that dungeon.
We don't know.
We don't know. It could have been a couple of days. We don't know. In all reality.
By the way, if it was a couple of days, that can answer the discussion we had, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't say. It could be.
We just
that-
assumed.
right.
Yeah, we've all assumed that it's the same day.
We assume it could be that he was there for a couple of days, 2 or 3 days,
Don't know.
and Peter came around, and then that morning is when that happened.
Right.
And if that works, then it can solve our problem because
Totally.
then Passover could be,
Yeah.
Monday night,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
it could have been Sunday. The crucifixion could have been Thursday morning,
Yeah.
and then Sunday would work.
Yeah.
There you go.
Meaning the Passover could be earlier in the week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the missing link, and it's amazing you say that because that can be.
Yeah. We don't know how long he was
What
there.
is not in there, it's not given to us, but we don't know otherwise.
Yeah.
We always assume it was in the main.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But maybe it was there because
Couple
Pilate
days.
was busy. He was
Yeah,
Sukkot,
probably. Yeah.
and he waited for the trial. The trial was set 2 days later. Thursday morning was the trial, crucifixion. Then he's there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Was it a government that gave the 30 pieces of silver? Was it an individual?
It was the priest.
The priest.
Yeah, it was the priest
Sanhedrin.
that did it. Yeah.
Does it say he rose after 3 days or on the 3rd day? Because that makes a difference.
That's also a good
He
question.
said 3 days and 3 nights. But it said 3 days and 3 nights.
So 3 nights, which means if it was Friday, so it's Friday night, Saturday night, it's 2 nights.
Yeah.
It's 48 hours.
Yeah. So it's
So
Thursday.
From Friday noon to Sunday noon is 48 hours. It's not even 3 days and 2 nights. So, again, we've discussed this back and forth. There's no Sometimes there's just no definite answer. We don't know. Well, we know he was crucified. We know the event. But the day of the week, and keep in mind one thing. When the events were
Doesn't
written
matter.
60 years after, maybe they got it off by one day, but it still happened. And again, like Johnny says, does it matter?
No,
Doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. But again, drives us deeper into wanting more understanding, and it causes us to learn, and it causes us to have a focus in His Word versus on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the whole point, is that He's drawing us in deeper.
We're
You know, the
finding the
real
Word.
question that if I were you, if I was standing, I asked this question myself, is like, Lord, why do you want me to know these things? Why are these questions coming up? Like, it's kind of neat. The way I see it is He's teaching His children, teaching us to think, teaching us to open our mind, to ask questions, the same as our parents did with us, maybe. I was raised by a dictator who you ask no questions, you just do what you're told and that's it. Otherwise, there's a nice foot strategically placed in wonderful places. But anyway, I think a good father causes his children to think, to ask questions, to wonder, to ponder. Do you know what I mean? It's part of how He's getting us to focus on who? Him instead of ourselves. Him instead of ourselves. And the fact that we can't find the answer, we just have to kind of ponder on it, means that we can't find the right answer. And what in us wants to find the right answer? Pride. Pride and ego wants to find the right answer. So this is what keeps us humble, because we don't know the right answer. I wasn't there. Was any of you? Just checking. So in all reality, really good. I mean, I literally just had that thought. I was like, oh, wow, that's one thing that could solve the riddle, is that he was in the dungeon for a couple of days. Totally possible.
Yep.
Absolutely possible. There's a lot of things in here that don't say. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot that's not said that's left up to our imagination. And again, the point, our Father's teaching us. How He teaches is with questions. Make us go, wait, keep us curious. It's beautiful. All right, well, let's go down to this amazing, beautiful place. It's authentic that we know He was here.
But now the high priest has him captured under his house in a prison. How long Jesus is spending, we don't know. Could be hours, could be days. What we can do is we can try to imagine what Jesus was praying. And I can guarantee you he was not quoting or praying from the New Testament, as this was written after him, about him. What was he praying? Probably Psalms. Probably he read from the book of Lamentations, which was written by Jeremiah, because who else was casted into the pit? Jeremiah. Jeremiah was a prophet. Jeremiah was also, in comparison to Jesus, a prophet that's preached a word that
Directly to the priests.
directed
And
the priest and the king, but the king did not like what he heard.
That's right. So I threw him in a pit.
So they didn't crucify him, but they almost killed him by throwing him into a pit. And he started to drown. 20 people had to pull him up, otherwise he would drown there in the cistern, in the mud. Let's read from Lamentations, chapter 3, verse 30. I'll read in Hebrew, you can read in English. Lamentations, chapter 3, verse 50.
50 or 30?
Chapter 3, verse 50. עד ישקיף וירא אדוני משמיים.
Until Yahweh looks down and sees from the heavens,
איני עוללה לנפשי מכל בנות עירי.
my eye pains my being because of all the daughters of my city.
צוד צדוני כציפור, אויבי חינם.
My enemies hunted me down like a bird without cause.
צמתו בבור חיי וידעו אבן בי.
They have cut off my life in the pit, and they threw stones at me.
צפו מים על ראשי, אמרתי, נגזרתי.
Waters flowed over my head. I said, I am cut off.
קראתי שמך אדוני מבור תחתיות.
I called on your name, O Yaakov, from the lowest pit.
קולי שמעת, אל תתעלם אוזנך לרווחתי ולשוועתי.
You have heard my voice, do not hide your ear from my groaning, from my outcry.
קרבת ביום אקראך, אמרת אל תירא.
You drew near on the day I called on you. You said, do not fear.
רבת אדוני לבי, נפשי גאלת חיי.
O Yaakov, you did plead the case for my being. You have redeemed my life.
ראית אדוני, עבדתי שפטה משפטי.
O Yaakov, you have seen my oppression. Judge my case.
ראית כל נקמתם, כל מחשבתם לי.
You have seen all their vengeance, all their plans against me.
שמעת חרפתם אדוני, כל מחשבותם עליי.
You have heard their reproach, O Yaakov, all their plans against me.
שפתיי כמים והגיונם עליי כל היום.
The lips of those rising against me and their scheming against me all the day.
שבטם וקימתם הביטה אני מנגינתם.
Look at their sitting down and their rising up. I am their song.
תשיב להם גמול אדוני כמעשה ידיהם.
Repay them, O Yaakov, according to the work of their hands.
תיתן להם מגינת לב, תעלתך להם.
Give them a veiled heart, your curse upon them.
תרדוף באף ותשמידם מתחת שמי אדוני.
Pursue and destroy them in displeasure from under the heavens of Yaakov.
Now, you just heard this. This was written by who? Prayed by who?
Yirmiyahu.
Jeremiah, 700 years before Jesus. Lamentations. I don't know what Jesus was praying, but I'm almost sure that he was reading that verses, that chapter.
Not necessarily reading. He didn't have the book. Wouldn't have Lamentations scroll with him, but
Right, but
he was the word.
praying that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure of it. Wow. Is that a common thing?
What?
That when Jews go through a rough time, that they read Lamentations or they pray Lamentations?
Well, Lamentations is being read every Tisha B'Av, the day we mourn the destruction of both temples, the first and the second. I told you when we were discussing yesterday, there are different tunes, and this is the saddest tunes. You want to cry. You sit on the floor, not on a chair, with candles. You read Lamentations. Every person reads another chapter, and the tunes are very, very sad. Eicha yashva badad, hayira batiyam, hayta kalman asati, bamdinot, hayta lamas, bachotiv ke balayla. You see, the tune is very sad. Without even knowing the words, you want to cry. So yes, Jews read that lament over the destruction of the temple. And, I know it by heart. I guess the Jews knew it by heart as well.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
But just imagine him spending the time here with his Creator. And just try to process what we did since last night. Think in his shoes, in disciples, the Passover meal, walking down to the garden, being arrested at night, and being brought here before the trial, knowing the following day or days he will be sent to the trial. Jews had no authority to put people on trial or to execute. Therefore, he was handed over to the Romans. And the Romans, for them, having a Jew, a Galilean, which was destabilizing the situation, they just said, we will crucify him. We'll read later on how Pilate discusses that in the place of the trial. But he was here, right down here in this dungeon.
So I would just takes a moment to kind of picture all of that. We now have tasted, we now have walked, we've smelled, we've experienced. But what would he be thinking? What would you be thinking? Especially knowing that the outcome is what the outcome is, you know? We know what the outcome is. That's it's hopeless. You know what I mean? Like, you're falsely accused. You know there's nothing you can say that's going to change the verdict.
You've been perfect.
You've been sinless. You've not sinned against man. You've not sinned against God. So this is like nothing but false accusations. Just as the prophets of old, the same. Jeremiah, like, we got to shut this guy up. He's calling us out on our stuff. He's exposing what we have hidden. I think it's so trippy that today, our churches today, that as a whole, our church is similar to when he was here. So I don't know what that means, but it's very interesting, you know, that here the high priest was living high on the hog. We see the same in the U.S. and South America and Africa with the highest paid pastors in the world. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. It's a big, big, big business. People profiting from it, where that was not supposed to be the case. So here he's like, he's got a harsh word, and they don't like it. And he knows he can't do anything to fix it. It's really debilitating and hopeless. So just take a few minutes and think about these accounts and think about there's blood that's on the ground that's his because they had beaten him, spat on his face, called him a blasphemer. So whatever you feel led to pray, just with yourself right there, or led to do, just go with it. Just days before the city turns out, they put him on a donkey, they lay down palm branches, right? And they're celebrating him and they're saying, Emmanuel. Emmanuel is how you say that. Emmanuel, which is God is with us. God is with us. He's blessed us. He's with us. And then here we are. That super high to this insane dungeon is low. Behold the Lamb of God. You do know that's why he didn't fight. That's why he didn't fight. He did not defend himself. What would we be doing in this moment? Who would be screaming your brains out? Yeah, how many of you be screaming your brains out? Hurling curses. What would be our natural thing to do?
Try to escape.
Try to escape? Yeah, fight to live. Who would be negotiating? Hey, dude, can we talk? You want to talk your way out of this? Right? We want to talk our way out of it, fight our way out of it, scream our way out of it, physically fight our way out of it. But like Isaac, 2,000 years before, total humility. Total humility. Humbled himself willingly to obey. Willingly to obey. How many of you battle with rebellion? So obedience is not your tendency. Me too. Me too.